I was in full uniform when someone asked if I was heading to a costume party. I'd been standing in line at the base commissary for 20 minutes, same ACU uniform I'd worn thousands of times before. I walked into the base commissary wearing my ACU uniform like I had thousands of times before. Everything felt normal. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I grabbed a cart and headed for the produce section. Airman Parker, barely 18 and probably fresh out of basic, stopped stocking shelves to look at me. He tilted his head slightly. "Sir, are you heading to a costume party?" he asked with genuine curiosity. I laughed it off. "What are you talking about?" "Nothing, sir. Sorry." He quickly returned to stacking apples, but I noticed him glancing at me again. I continued shopping, but something felt off. People kept staring at me as I moved through the aisles. I grabbed my usual groceries and tried to ignore the strange looks. The checkout line took 20 minutes. Rita, the older cashier who'd worked here for decades, finally called me forward. "ID, please," she said, not meeting my eyes. I handed her my military ID. She studied it much longer than usual, turning it over several times. "Everything okay?" I asked. Rita nodded silently. She bagged my groceries without saying another word. This wasn't like her at all. Rita normally chatted about her grandkids, or asked about my week. Today, nothing. I walked to the parking lot, carrying my bags and feeling increasingly uneasy. A group of 3 men stood near my car. I recognized them immediately. Marcus, my old squad leader from Afghanistan. Ronan and Corey were with him, all in civilian clothes. "Devin," Marcus called out. "Man, it's been a while. Where have you been stationed lately?" I gave a vague answer about a special assignment. I didn't want to get into details. "Right," Marcus said, exchanging glances with the others. "You doing okay?" "I'm fine," I said, loading groceries into my trunk. "Just busy." I hurried into my car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw them huddled together, whispering. My paranoia grew. I decided to hit the gym to clear my head. The base gym was nearly empty when I arrived. I approached the front desk, expecting to see Talia. Instead, Brandon sat there. He wore his MP uniform and frowned when I walked up. "ID," he demanded, despite knowing me for months. I handed it over. "Where's Talia today?" Brandon ignored my question. He scrutinized my ID card just like Rita had done. "Is there a problem?" I asked. "No problem," he said, handing it back. "Enjoy your workout." The gym felt hostile. 2 MPs stood near the water fountains, talking quietly and watching me. People stared as I moved between machines. I cut my workout short and drove home to my off-base apartment. Something was seriously wrong. In my bathroom, I studied my uniform in the mirror. Name tape, rank insignia, everything properly aligned. Nothing out of place. Yet something felt deeply wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone knew something I didn't. A knock at my door startled me. I opened it to find Noreen, my neighbor, looking concerned. "Devin," she said gently, "are you taking your medication?" I stared at her blankly. "What medication?" She glanced at my uniform and sighed. "The pills Dr. Desmond prescribed for your episodes." "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, closing the door. I leaned against the wall, heart pounding. Everyone was acting strange. The comment about a costume party, Rita's silence, Marcus asking where I'd been stationed. I worked in the same building for 3 years. Everyone knew me. So why did they all look at me like I was a ghost? I tried to remember my last shift at work. My mind went blank. I couldn't recall when I'd last been on duty. I returned to the bathroom mirror. My reflection looked back at me, familiar yet somehow wrong. The uniform felt right on my body. But if that was true, why had Airman Parker asked about a costume party? I woke up disoriented on my couch. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, hitting my face. My uniform was still on, wrinkled from sleeping in it. The conversation with Noreen bothered me all night. What medication was she talking about? What episodes? I stumbled to the kitchen for water. My head pounded with each step. Something felt off about my apartment. I'd lived here for years, but suddenly it seemed unfamiliar, like someone else had arranged my things. I opened drawers randomly, searching for something I couldn't name. The 3rd drawer in my bedroom desk was stuck. It took 3 hard yanks to open it. Inside was a manila envelope I didn't recognize. My name was written across it in my own handwriting. I dumped the contents onto my bed. Military discharge papers stared back at me. My heart raced as I read the documents. Medical retirement, PTSD diagnosis, honorable discharge dated 8 months ago. This couldn't be right. I was still active duty. I worked on base every day. I searched more drawers frantically. In my nightstand, I found prescription bottles, 3 of them, all with my name. The labels showed they were prescribed by Dr. Desmond at the VA hospital for dissociative episodes and anxiety. I sank onto the edge of my bed. None of this made sense. I worked at the base. I wore my uniform every day. I found a leather-bound journal hidden under my mattress. The first entry was dated 7 months ago. Had another episode today. Woke up in uniform again. Tried to report for duty. MPs had to escort me off base. Dr. Desmond increased my medication. Entry after entry described the same pattern. Me putting on my uniform, going to base, being confused when people acted strange. The most recent entry was from 2 weeks ago. Haven't had an episode in a month. Medication seems to be working. Feeling hopeful. A memory surfaced suddenly. Liana packing her bags, tears streaming down her face. "I can't do this anymore, Devin," she'd said. "I never know which version of you I'll wake up to. Sometimes you don't recognize me. It scares me." I'd begged her to stay, promised I'd get better, but she'd walked out anyway. I sat on my bed for hours, reading and rereading the journal entries. They were all in my handwriting, all described events I couldn't remember. Finally, I made a decision. I needed to see for myself. I drove to the base and parked across from the main gate. I watched soldiers coming and going for nearly an hour. Something wasn't right about their uniforms. The pattern was slightly different from mine. The cut of the fabric, the placement of patches. I approached the gate in my car. Miles was working the guard shack today. He examined my ID card with obvious suspicion. "Purpose of your visit today, sir?" "Reporting for duty," I said, trying to sound normal. Miles studied my face for a long moment. Then he radioed someone. I couldn't hear what he said. "Go ahead," he finally said, handing back my ID. I drove through the gate, feeling Miles watching me in the rearview mirror. Something was very wrong. I parked near my building, the same building I'd worked in for 3 years. My keycard didn't work at the door. The light flashed red when I swiped it. I tried 3 more times. Red, red, red. Panic rose in my chest. I pulled out my phone and called Dr. Desmond's number. It was saved in my contacts. "This is Dr. Desmond's office," a receptionist answered. "I need to speak with him," I said. "It's urgent. This is Devin. Dr. Desmond is with a patient. Can I take a message?" "Tell him I'm at the base. My uniform is wrong. Everyone's acting strange. I found the discharge papers." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. That's when I spotted Marcus across the parking lot. He was watching me. I walked toward him, determined to get answers. "Marcus, what's going on? Why can't I get into the building?" Marcus backed away slowly. "Devin, you shouldn't be here. We've been through this before." "Through what? What are you talking about? You don't work here anymore, man. You were discharged after Afghanistan." "That's not true," I insisted, moving closer. "I've been here every day." Marcus looked genuinely concerned. "Call Dr. Desmond. He can help you." I saw movement from the corner of my eye. 2 MPs were approaching quickly. Panic surged through me. I turned and ran back to my car. The MPs called after me, but I didn't stop. I jumped in my car and sped out of the parking lot. My mind raced faster than my car. The journal, the medication, the discharge papers, everyone's strange behavior. What if I really had been discharged? What if none of this was real? I gripped the steering wheel tighter, trying to separate truth from delusion. But the more I thought about it, the more everything blurred together. The uniform in my closet felt so real, but so did the discharge papers in my drawer. I returned to the base the next morning with a new plan. I wore civilian clothes and carried my uniform in a duffel bag. No more confusion or confrontation. I needed answers. I parked in the visitor lot and watched the morning shift change. People streamed through security checkpoints, showing IDs and scanning badges. I studied their movements carefully. The uniform still looked wrong to me, different from the one in my bag. I couldn't pinpoint exactly how, but something was off. I approached a different entrance this time, the employee entrance to my building. I timed it perfectly, slipping in behind a group of soldiers during the busiest part of shift change. No one questioned me. I blended in with my civilian clothes, just another contractor or civilian employee heading to work. Inside, the hallways looked both familiar and strange. I knew where my office should be, but hesitated at each turn. The layout felt altered somehow. I reached what should have been my office door. The nameplate read, Major Wilson, instead of my name. I tried the handle anyway. Locked. An alarm suddenly blared overhead. Red lights flashed along the corridor. I froze, unsure what triggered it. Brandon and another MP, Reed, according to his nameplate, appeared at the end of the hallway. They spotted me immediately. "Devin," Brandon called out. "Stay where you are." I backed away. "This is my office. I work here." "No, you don't," Reed said firmly. "Not anymore." More footsteps approached from behind me. I turned to see Colonel Grant walking toward me with purpose. His face showed recognition, not surprise. "Devin," he said, "you can't keep coming here." "Sir, with respect, I don't understand what's happening," I said. "Everyone's acting like I don't belong here." Colonel Grant sighed. "Because you don't. Not anymore. You know this, Devin. We've been through this before." "I don't know anything," I shouted. "I'm still active duty. This is where I work." Colonel Grant nodded to the MPs, who kept their distance but didn't leave. He gestured to a nearby conference room. "Let's talk privately," he said. I followed him inside. The room was small but familiar. I'd attended briefings here countless times. "Devin, you were medically discharged 8 months ago," Colonel Grant said, "after the incident in Afghanistan." "What incident?" I demanded. "I don't remember any incident." "The IED," he said softly. "You were the only survivor in your vehicle." Suddenly, flashes of memory hit me. Blinding light, deafening noise, blood everywhere, Marcus screaming from the front seat. But that couldn't be right. I'd just seen Marcus yesterday. "That's not true," I insisted. "Marcus is fine. I saw him in the parking lot." "You saw him because he came to check on you," Colonel Grant explained. "After your last episode, he was worried." I shook my head violently. "This is some kind of conspiracy. You're all trying to convince me I'm crazy." "No conspiracy, Devin. You suffered severe trauma. The doctors diagnosed PTSD with dissociative episodes." My head pounded. None of this made sense. Yet the discharge papers I'd found, the journal entries. If I was discharged, why would I keep coming back in uniform? I asked. "Dr. Desmond says it's how your mind protects itself," Colonel Grant replied. "You can't accept what happened to your squad, so you pretend you're still serving." The door opened. Dr. Desmond himself walked in, looking concerned. "Devin," he said, "I got your message yesterday. I've been trying to reach you." I stared at him, trying to reconcile his presence with my fractured memories. "I don't understand what's happening to me." "You're having another episode," Dr. Desmond explained gently. "You forgot your discharge again. It happens when you stop taking your medication." The room seemed to tilt around me. My uniform in the duffel bag suddenly felt like a costume, not the real thing. "But it feels so real," I whispered. "I remember everything about my service." "You remember everything before the explosion," Dr. Desmond corrected. "Your mind is protecting you from the trauma that came after." Colonel Grant pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. It was me in dress uniform, receiving a Purple Heart. I had no memory of the ceremony. This was at your retirement, he said, 6 months ago. Another photo showed me with Marcus, Ronan, and Corey at what looked like a farewell party. All three very much alive, despite my flash of memory showing them dead. I don't remember any of this, I admitted. Reed and Brandon escorted me to the security office. They were gentle, treating me like someone fragile rather than a threat. Colonel Grant followed with Dr. Desmond. In the office, Grant unlocked a drawer and pulled out a folder. Your service record, he said, including commendation for valor during the attack and your medical retirement paperwork. I flipped through the documents with trembling hands. Everything was there: the attack details, hospital records, psychiatric evaluations. The MPs know to expect you, Colonel Grant explained. This has happened before. You show up in uniform, confused about why things seem different. How many times? I asked. This is the 7th time in 8 months, he replied. Each time, we try to help you remember. Dr. Desmond sat beside me. Your mind created a reality where you never left service, where the attack never happened. But I saw Marcus die, I whispered, in the Humvee. Marcus survived, Dr. Desmond said. You both did. Ronan and Corey were in different vehicles. They're all alive, Devin. The walls of my reality were crumbling. Everything I thought I knew was wrong. What happens now? I asked. We'll take you to the VA hospital, Dr. Desmond said. Get you back on your medication, help you process what's happening. Colonel Grant placed a hand on my shoulder. You served with honor, Devin, but your service is over now. It's time to heal. I nodded slowly, the truth finally sinking in. I wasn't a soldier anymore, hadn't been for 8 months. The uniform in my duffel bag wasn't mine to wear. It belonged to a past I couldn't fully remember, but couldn't seem to let go. I sat in a small room at the VA hospital staring at the white walls. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, reminding me of the commissary where this all started. Dr. Desmond sat across from me with my journal open on his lap. This is the 7th episode in 8 months, he said, pointing to my own handwriting. Each time follows the same pattern. I nodded slowly. The medication they'd given me was starting to clear my head. Reality felt more solid now. I put on the uniform. I go to base. Everyone acts strange. I get confused, I summarized. Dr. Desmond flipped through more pages. Your mind created an alternate reality where you never left service, where the attack never happened. But I remember the explosion now, I said. The flash, the noise, blood everywhere. Memories were returning in fragments. Not all at once, but in painful bursts that left me disoriented. That's progress, Dr. Desmond said. Your brain is finally processing the trauma instead of blocking it. He showed me earlier journal entries where I documented complete memory blackouts, times when I couldn't even remember my own discharge. Half my squad died that day, I whispered, but I keep seeing Marcus alive. Because he is alive, Dr. Desmond explained. Your mind merged 2 realities, the explosion where you thought everyone died, and the present where some survived. I rubbed my temples. Why can't I keep it straight? Trauma affects memory in complex ways, he said. Your brain is trying to protect you. There was a knock at the door. Noreen entered carrying a small duffel bag of my clothes. You left in such a hurry, she said, setting it down. I thought you might need these. I thanked her awkwardly. You've been checking on me all this time? She nodded. I find you wandering in uniform at least once a month. Sometimes you recognize me, sometimes you don't. I'm sorry, I said. The weight of what I'd put others through was sinking in. Don't apologize, she said. Just keep taking your medication. Dr. Desmond outlined a new treatment plan after Noreen left. Adjusted medication, twice-weekly therapy sessions, group support with other veterans. The uniform triggers these episodes, he explained. Your mind associates it with a time before the trauma. I thought about the ACU hanging in my closet, how right it felt on my body, how wrong it looked to everyone else. What if this happens again? I asked. We're developing anchors to help you recognize reality, he said. Photos, documents, phone contacts you can check when things feel off. Marcus visited that afternoon. He brought old photos from our deployment before the attack. Everyone smiling, arms around shoulders, unaware of what was coming. I should have died in that Humvee, I said. Marcus shook his head. But you didn't. Neither did I. That matters. He told me about the explosion from his perspective. How he'd been thrown clear. How he'd pulled me out despite his own injuries. You don't remember the rescue? He asked. I shook my head. My memory stops at the flash. That's when you saved Corey, Marcus said. You dragged him away from the burning vehicle before collapsing. This didn't match my fractured memories at all. In my mind, Corey had died instantly. I saved him? I asked. Marcus nodded. That's why you got the Purple Heart. Colonel Grant made sure of it. More visitors came over the next few days. Other veterans with similar struggles shared their stories in group therapy. Their experiences mirrored mine in unsettling ways. I kept showing up at my old office for months, one guy said. Couldn't accept I'd been discharged. I still wear my dog tags to bed, another admitted. Can't sleep without them. Colonel Grant visited on my 5th day. He brought a unit coin, pressing it into my palm. For service rendered, he said formally, and for battles still being fought. I turned the heavy coin over in my hand. It felt more real than my memories. I'm sorry for the confusion I caused, I said. No apologies needed, he replied. Just focus on healing now. When I returned home a week later, the first thing I did was open my closet. The uniform hung there, familiar and tempting. I took it down carefully, folded it with precision, placed it in a donation box for the Veterans Center downtown. Time to let go, I said to the empty room. Dr. Desmond had helped me develop memory anchors for disoriented moments. Photos on my phone, a letter from Colonel Grant confirming my honorable discharge, journal entries I could reference. I joined a veterans outreach program the following month. Helping others transition to civilian life gave purpose to my days. Structure without uniforms, service without combat. 3 months passed without an episode, then 6. The medication worked most days. Therapy helped on the bad ones. I was walking through the mall when I saw a soldier in ACUs waiting in line for coffee. For a moment, my chest tightened with longing and confusion. I reached for my phone, checked my anchors, medical discharge papers, photos from the retirement ceremony, Dr. Desmond's number on speed dial. The soldier nodded at me as our eyes met. I nodded back. Recognition, respect, but no delusion. Former Army? He asked. Yes, I said. Medically retired. Thank you for your service, he said simply. I smiled, the words no longer triggering confusion. Likewise. I walked away without looking back at the uniform. My past remained where it belonged. Behind me, not forgotten, but no longer controlling my present. The memories of Afghanistan would always be with me, but now they were just memories, not an alternate reality I kept trying to inhabit. I was a veteran now, not active duty. The distinction finally made sense.